Are you ready?
Starting now?
Now you just messed it up, you knob. God, you know that the shit that we go through for this, huh?
I know. Fuckers better appreciate it. When we started, we were just like, yeah, we're just going to do this, man. You know, shoot our wad into the wind and see what happens. What's the title of this podcast again?
I don't know. I don't know. Something with a penis, I guess.
Right.
Our fucking faces are everywhere now.
Right.
But
you're welcome, ladies.
Right. Popular with the ladies. Right. Oh, I'm not even going to apologize because hopefully it sounds fucking hilarious.
Yeah, totally. This is fucking explicit now.
The explicit button. Let me use my finger.
La, 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 la.
It is time for another episode of Sober, Not Mature. And that episode starts now. All right, everyone. Welcome once again to another episode of Sober, Not Mature. And if anyone's been paying attention, we do have another guest tonight. We'll let him introduce himself in a minute. We're starting off a couple of minutes late, which we'll let Mike explain that in a minute also. Yeah, we've got, if you've been following along on Instagram, we've got Travis with us tonight. Two things that are cool. Number one, it's the second author that we've had on, which is awesome. And then the other really cool thing, which I appreciate, another cheesehead. So, Travis, go ahead and introduce yourself.
All right, so I am a cheesehead, but sadly, I'm actually a that's fan. So
that's
you can hate on that as you will, but that's all right.
I don't care. It's where you live, not who you like. So you live in Wisconsin. That's all that matters, man.
Oh, that's perfect then. So, anyway, yeah, I am a best-selling author of the book My Life with Karma, which is my recovery story. That published in August of 2021 and became a bestseller on Easter Sunday. So, pretty cool.
Very nice. Very nice. Congratulations.
Thank you. Great. Appreciate that. Yeah, go ahead.
Go on.
Oh, I was going to say I'm also a person in recovery since October of 2013. So coming up on 9 years.
Yep. Wonderful. Yeah, we've been around for just a couple years longer than that, but welcome and welcome to this little podcast. And we were talking just a little bit off before we started recording, and you've listened to us before, and you're still here, like Mike said. So that's an amazing feat in and of itself. But if you've listened, you probably kind of got an idea of, and I'll use my air quotes, what our format is. But I'm going to let Mike explain it real quick, and then we can get going. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Basically, we all know how to get loaded. We all know how to fuck our lives up. We don't care about that. I mean, we want your backstory. We want you to qualify a bit, but mostly we're concerned with the solution. What you're doing now to stay sober. That's what we're interested in.
Gotcha, man.
Yeah.
That sounds good to me.
Cool.
So I guess to kick it off, basically my story, like a lot of other people's, I started drinking early in high school. Didn't really ever have that much of a problem with alcohol. Would get drunk with friends, but it was never like a major issue. I was still getting all my stuff done, still playing sports, still doing what I needed to do, basically putting all the checks in all the right boxes.
Right.
So I never really saw it as an issue. Get to college. I go to college with my best friend since kindergarten, and him and I basically set the goal of we're going to drink as much as we possibly can and still try to get decent grades. So I went to the college in the middle of a cornfield in central Wisconsin and Sheboygan area. So if you're familiar with that at all, that's, and yeah, drank heavily there. I was actually a vice president of Students Against Excessive Drinking, which really didn't make sense. I know, right? So here I am, champion alcoholic, but also trying to tell other, I guess,
Sure.
classmates, cohorts, you know, what to do, what not to do while drinking.
Right.
Interesting dynamic. So, um, yeah, after school, I went to the police academy. And then after the academy, I got hired on by the Wisconsin Capitol Police to
Hmm.
I did dignitary protection for Governor Doyle and then Governor Walker. So, a pretty cool career field to get into. And basically, I grew up in an abusive house. So, I always wanted to kind of give people that protection that I didn't have. That was my
Hmm.
whole goal of being an officer, was just protect other people and do my due diligence, do the best job I could. So, and
Right.
that worked for a while until I injured my back. I was really big into powerlifting too. Actually, I qualified for Worlds in Las Vegas, and this is around 2010. So huge into lifting, and one day I'm in the gym and deadlifting. I think I had around 600 pounds on the bar at the time,
Damn.
and yeah, man, just bent down, tried to come up with the lift and felt something pop in my back.
Oh, crap.
So that's when the injury started. And then a couple months later, I was at work and I was actually moving coolers for a protest that we had going on. And I bent down, twisted the wrong way to pick up a cooler, and my back went completely out. So I ended up herniating L4 and L5, and then eventually L5 ruptured. So that was my introduction to opioids.
That's right. I was about to say, man, that'll get you some good stuff.
Yeah. I went to a walk-in doctor the day I did it, and they gave me the 20 milligram oxys, and basically told me, here, we're going to give you these, take them for the next 30 days. You're going to have to schedule an appointment with your primary doctor and then probably a surgeon. And I did okay the first 30 days. Then they re-upped the script for 90 days. And that's when I had issues.
Yeah, that'll get you a habit.
Yeah, exactly. So eventually, really what happened was I went from, alcohol use questionable in my life, and then opioids just completely took over.
Right.
I remember clock watching was like the first thing I ran into, just not being able to pretty much last that. I don't know if they said every 2 to 3 or every 3 to 4 hours, but I was
Right.
definitely taking them like once every 1 to 2 hours and blowing through my scripts.
Right.
So when I wasn't taking the oxy, then I was taking horse bute. So I was taking 1/5 the dose that they would give to a horse. So basically like horse aspirin. Just anything to numb the pain was really
Right.
what I was going for. And then I was still lifting in the gym. I was still lifting about 80% of what I was lifting, even
Holy
with the
crap.
back injury. Yeah, I was determined. Like I said, I qualified for Worlds. I also picked up a sponsor from a supplement company. So I was all in. Like I was ready to make my mark in the powerlifting world. And unfortunately, the back injury happened. So basically, where my story really turns to shit is um, I got cut off. And when I got cut off, I had no idea what I was going to do. I'm like, look, I can't survive. I can't even bend over and tie my shoes without being on oxy. So,
Right.
So it was the doctors that cut you off, obviously.
yeah.
Okay.
They told me either I was going to have surgery, or basically I had to find some alternative that they weren't going to keep me on the medication any longer.
Okay.
But by that time I was so hooked on it, it didn't
Right.
matter.
Right.
I needed it. And
Yeah. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, you weren't a street cop, so you didn't have all those connections.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you called that one.
So wait,
So
there's
basically,
no drugs in politics either. I didn't know that. I'm just joking. Go
yeah,
ahead.
no, I got you. Not the kind of drugs I was looking for at the time.
Right.
No, I get you.
But
I got you.
yeah. So basically, a guy that I worked out with, he was juicing, and I knew he could get some other stuff. Now, when I
Sure.
say other stuff, it ended up being a veterinarian grade painkiller that he was getting
Nice.
through Canada. Yeah. So, and the big caveat there was I had to buy in bulk, which to me was not a big deal because I was
Right.
like, look, I need this. I'm going to blow through it anyway. So I was getting 600 pills at a time.
Holy shit.
And yeah, exactly. So, and the vet grade stuff was nothing compared to the oxy. So I was taking anywhere from 3 to 4 pills, crushing them, snorting them, basically just anything, once again, to numb the pain. That was my
Right.
whole MO. And eventually that got me to the point where I couldn't afford the vet grade stuff anymore. So I began stealing to support my habit.
Sure.
So here I am, a cop working in the field, but also stealing to support my habit. And yeah, man, life just kind of continued to go down the shitter from there.
So were you and you're married now and expecting a baby, right?
Yes, I am. Yeah,
Oh,
in
yeah.
December.
Oh, congratulations. Oh my God, that's right
Yeah.
around the corner. Congratulations.
I know, right? It's crazy. Thank you.
So I've got a grandson. That's one thing. That's why it just blew my mind. I don't know why I almost got nervous for myself. Holy crap, a kid's coming. But so were you involved with your now wife at the time you were going through all this, or anyone in your
No.
life to monitor all this stuff, or no?
No, so actually, I was married at the time to my first wife.
Okay.
And I hid shit from her. She had no idea whatsoever. She thought maybe I had a problem with alcohol and probably caffeine, but that was about it. And the reason I had the problem with the caffeine was from the opioids. So
Right.
it was like I was constantly almost making my own 8 balls by
Right.
taking them and then just downing energy drinks with pre-workout, like just crazy shit. I'm surprised I didn't have a heart attack, to be real with you guys, but
Right.
I made it through. So yeah, she had no clue though whatsoever.
Okay. Yeah, I was just kind of curious because I mean, at the time that I went through my whole mess, I mean, I was married and I got accused all the time, and I mean, she knew what was going on, but I guess basically couldn't. And here's my second air quote: couldn't prove it because I think I was hiding it relatively well. She could tell. I mean, I was hiding the stuff well, but I was drinking, but one way or the other. Just kind of curious if through all that, if you had somebody kind of eyeballing you saying, well, something's wrong with you, man.
Yeah, see, surprisingly, not really. And too, working in a building full of cops, you think someone would have picked up on it or said something,
Right.
but no one ever did. So I just kind of went about my way, continued on my path of destruction, and really no one ever intervened until one day I got caught. Stealing is really what broke the camel's back, so to say.
Right.
Okay.
So yeah, I essentially went into work one day, just like any other day, and was greeted by a city detective and 2 officers, and they sat me down, dropped a file about 2 inches thick on the table, and said, "Look, we know you've been stealing to support your habit. What do you have to say for yourself?" And basically, I said, "Look, I need to talk to an attorney. I don't have anything to say to you guys." And I was promptly taken to jail and booked into the county jail.
All right.
So where were you stealing from? Was it stores or people or work, or where were you stealing from?
I was stealing credit card information from the gym that I worked out at.
Okay.
So, and then I was passing that along, getting paid for it, and using that money to buy the vet grade painkillers.
Yeah, sooner or later, I mean that's gonna leave a paper trail. So yeah,
Yeah,
I guess
exactly.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
I was
now
not a smart criminal whatsoever. Like, Did not think about the paper trail. Really did not think about anything other than just getting my fix.
Well,
Right.
you know, and the thing of it is as smart as I think some criminals think they are, sooner or later, I mean, especially in this situation, whether it's in an addiction type of situation, I would think that there's going to be a time when you physically can't cover your tracks.
Yeah.
You don't have the ability to cover your tracks. I mean, that's how people get caught because they're usually not 100%. There's could be smart people, but I think everyone's going to mess up sooner or later.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with you. I think too, after you do it for a while too, you become more comfortable, and
Sure.
it's that comfort level that gets you because all of a sudden
Right.
you get sloppy and you
Well,
do
yeah,
things
and to
that
Bill's point,
initially you said you wouldn't do.
right. Well, and to Bill's point, you're fucking loaded, so you're not all that sharp.
Exactly. That's a very good point on top of it.
Reminds me of Dave Chappelle talking in one of his things. He's talking about smoking weed versus hard drugs, and he says you can smoke some weed and still function. He says you're not crisp, but you can function.
Right.
But yeah,
Yeah.
you're on opioids or loaded up on booze or whatever it is. Yeah, I mean you may think you're kind of smart, but and you may be, but yeah, sooner or later it's going to get caught up with you. So okay, so now you're sitting in jail. You got a 2-inch thick file standing in front of you. What happens now?
Yeah. So eventually I get released. And I had 13 misdemeanor charges. So
Hmm.
for essentially each time I stole credit card information, it came with a charge. So
Right.
and then um, back and forward between my attorney, district attorney, they finally agree that I'm going to do 6 months in, 6 months on the bracelet, and then 3.5 years on probation. Um, did my time in all right. It was not easy, especially being in the same county where I worked as a cop.
Right.
Mhm.
And actually, the hardest part was not the inmates, but seeing other guys that like work for the sheriff's department that I knew from special events, things like
Right.
that.
Yeah. The
I mean,
COs. Right.
yeah, exactly, man. And some of them like basically left me alone. Some made my life more difficult. Um,
Hmm.
and it was a really hard period of my life just to get through. Basically, I went into survival mode. It was just, what do I need to do today to get by so that
Hmm.
I can survive another day? I mean, it was
Right.
almost like using, only to a different degree.
Sure.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well, and
um,
actually, it's kind of good training for being sober. What do I have to do today to survive today?
yeah, exactly. No, that's very true. That's a great point.
So while you were in there, did you get involved in any type of, I mean, you had to have gone through some sort of withdrawal while you were in there, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, I did. I actually, so to rewind a little bit, like I
Mhm.
got booked and released. So I actually did something that's not incredibly intelligent, and I detoxed myself at home.
Okay.
I set myself up one weekend, basically went to a local drugstore, got Pedialyte, all the stuff I thought I would need, and
Mhm.
ended up just being deathly ill for about 3 to 4 days. I write about it in my book just as one of the worst things that I have ever gone through in
Right.
terms of just trying to get sober and really not knowing what I was doing. Obviously, not there taking any kind of safety measures aside from Pedialyte and water and some protein bars, but that's about all I had.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, but I got through it. So
Right. Yeah, you do. I mean, yes, opiate opiate withdrawal is a fucking pain in the ass and you hurt, but it's not going to kill you, unlike alcohol withdrawal.
Right.
yeah.
So, yeah, it's so how long were you using before you did that?
I would say for consistently for about 7 months.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Yeah, that'll do it.
it had gotten to the point where I was up to around 20 some pills a day was
Mhm.
where I peaked at.
Right.
Yeah, man. And it was a mess. I mean, I was a mess. And really
Mhm.
the only thing that kind of helped me at the time was I went to counseling. My attorney advised me, he's like, look, you're going to need to get yourself clean. You're going to need to get into some kind of counseling and
Mm-hmm.
basically show the court that you're making an effort here.
Right. Right.
And so I did that. But I never really, at that time, I never really embraced sobriety. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
was going through the motions. I kind of treated it like a college course. Like, I learned as much as I could. I went
Mm-hmm.
in and I was an active participant, but at the end of the day, I was still white knuckling it, still didn't really believe that there was a better life or really what people were telling me. And I
Mm-hmm.
also questioned too. I'm like, in the back of my mind, I always questioned, well, maybe I can still use alcohol. Like,
Sure.
and that is what led to my rock bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, I get off of the ankle bracelet, and one night I'm at home, I'm just up, I can't sleep, and I decide to go to a bar. And that bar that evening, I believe they had softball and some kind of specials going on. So they had Long Island specials. That's the only thing I remember from the night. And these are big boy Long Islands. They're Wisconsin pours. So
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how many of those I had. I think in the book I wrote anywhere from 8 to 12 in about a 2-hour time span.
And
So
Nice.
I was just putting them down.
Well,
Yeah.
And
Long Island's are usually what, 3 to 5 shots of shit in there anyhow, right?
yeah, exactly. And just a splash of cola. So
Right.
Just enough to
Yeah.
give it some color.
yeah, pretty much. So basically, I down the Long Islands, and in my infinite wisdom, decide I can drive home.
Of course.
On my drive home, I crashed my car into a curb coming into our neighborhood. Get out of the car, try to drive it off the curb, realize something's hung up in the front end. It's not going to happen. So I'm like, great, going to have to collect my shit and walk home. And then I was like, but first I have to pee and I think I'm going to throw up. So went to the neighbor's bushes, urinated, threw up, just trying to get my shit together. And I guess what happened was I'm about to walk home and now I feel like I'm going to be sick again. So I leaned up against a car, ended up setting off a car alarm, and all hell broke loose. In our neighborhood, we were experiencing car break-ins. My car had just been broken into like 3 weeks prior. So not a good time to be fucking around. And basically this neighbor comes outside. He's got one of the big Maglite flashlights, and he's screaming all sorts of obscenities. Like, if I catch you, what I'm going to do to you, all sorts of shit. So I decide I'm going to try to duck down behind a car and hide. Well, I'm 6 feet. I'm 230 pounds. Like, I'm a big dude. Hiding
Right.
did not work for me. So he sees me. I promptly open the car, slide in the car, and lock the doors. So now I'm locked in a car, and I've got this guy outside the window just screaming at me, and I'm drunk trying to explain to him, look, man, I'm trying to walk home. Like,
Right.
he seemed to relax a little bit, so I was like, okay, cool, maybe this guy's going to be chill, and I can get out of the car. As soon as I got out of the car, he said I lunged at him. I'm pretty sure I just took a drunk stumble.
Right.
And yeah, and he proceeded to beat me with the Maglite flashlight.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I fractured my skull in 3 different places, had a traumatic brain injury, a concussion on top of the traumatic brain injury, and basically was just beat unconscious.
Right.
The next thing I know, EMS is there, and they're taking me to the hospital. The first hospital they took me to couldn't. They basically looked at the extent of my injuries and said, "Look, we're not suited for this." So then I had to go to the neighboring UW hospital. Within the next 24 hours, I had 2 surgeries. One to remove all the air that had gotten inside my skull,
Shit.
inside my brain cavity, and then another one to repair all the damage that was done to the left side of my face. They ended up putting in 3 titanium plates that pretty much holds, well, at the time, held everything together. So, and then on top of it, so I'm recovering in the hospital. I'm there for about a day and a half, and the police come. And they give me a disorderly conduct ticket, but since I'm on probation for the thefts, I violate my probation. So I get taken back to jail. Yeah. So I get taken back to county jail. Once I'm at county, they look me over and decide I'm not fit for general population. And they didn't have a medical wing. So I went from basically being in the hospital to then solitary confinement in the jail.
Oh, shit.
So, yeah, so I spent the next 7 days recovering in solitary confinement until they said I was fit for general pop. I also lost my ability to speak and my ability to write. So I wasn't able to articulate what I needed, what was going on. I had what's called aphasia, where I would get stuck on words, the same thing a lot of stroke patients go through.
Right.
And that was all from the brain injury. So basically, there I was just in jail, just me and my thoughts, thinking I may never totally speak again. I may never write again. Really just not knowing what the hell was going to happen with me. And fortunately, the speech slowly came back as my brain healed. And then I had to reteach myself how to write. So while I was in jail, I did like the ABCs, did a big A, big B, little b, and so on, and just kind of retaught myself how to write. That took a couple months, but I had time. So, yeah. So all during this time, in the background, my attorney's working, trying to basically get me out of there. My probation agent is like, there's no way we're revoking him. So eventually I ended up getting revoked, spending 6 months total in jail, and then 9 months more on the ankle bracelet, and then owing 4 years on felony probation.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So that was my rock bottom. That's where basically I was like, look, I need to stop doing what I'm doing, or I'm gonna wind up dead, or end up hurting someone else.
So at that point, I mean, when all this stuff starts coming back, and then you have this realization that you need to mend your ways, did you go to any type of a structured type of recovery program, or what did you do from that point forward?
I did. So once I got out of jail, I went back to the counseling facility that I initially gone to, and they put me into an IOP program, so intensive outpatient treatment.
Sure.
Right.
So I was going Monday through Friday for 3 hours each day in the morning, and then I was staying on as a mentor and basically helping with other people that had just kind of decided they wanted to find recovery. People that were, just new to the program is really kind of the way I look at it. And just trying to guide them the best to my ability based on what I had experienced. So
that's kind of what we all do.
Exactly, man. Exactly.
So it was
that kept me sober for a while. Yeah.
So the counseling part, and then and I guess what I was getting at, so we're like, so that's where you started in. You get the counseling. Did you go to and Mike and I got raised up, and Mike's been involved in a couple of different programs, but we ended up getting involved in the AA program. Did you do anything like 12-step? Did you do another program, or how did you basically? What are you doing? These days, how did you stay sober and for 9 years now?
Yeah, so I did work a program. I went to a place called the Serenity Club, which AA based, and pretty much got hooked up with oh my goodness, what's the name? A sponsor.
Sure.
Oh my gosh, can't believe I couldn't pull that one.
That's all right.
And really just learned from people that were older and wiser than me is really kind of what did it.
That's
And
what does it.
yeah, exactly. And the other part of it was being transparent, just being
Mm-hmm.
honest with people, saying, look, this
Mm-hmm.
is what I'm struggling with, or this is really like I'm having cravings, or whatever it may be, and
Mm-hmm.
realizing, holy shit, I'm not that unique. I'm not the only
Right.
one. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a big one, man. Yes, we are not unique. We are not special. We are not different.
exactly. And that was huge for me because for so
Mm-hmm.
long, I think I put it all on my own shoulders, like in terms of getting sober, in terms of everything I did in my life. I was like, look, I've got this. And now
Mm-hmm.
it's like I'm the exact opposite. I give it up to a higher power and I say,
Right.
look, I don't have this. I need
Mm-hmm.
help, and it works a hell of a lot better.
Doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does, man.
Well, the funny thing too, and I'll let Mike explain his side of things. But I was kind of the not even kind of I was the same way. I mean, I never. I'll just basically say I never really took care of myself. People helped me throughout my life, although I took credit for it. Again, I was unique. I was an egotist. I still am, but less. Narcissistic was more so what I was. But so I took
Mm-hmm.
credit for people helping me through my life up to that point. But then once I got sober, then it's like, okay, then it can't be me, and I need other people's help, and all those different things. But then the whole higher power thing was difficult for me. I didn't have a God problem. I had no issue at all with religion. I just didn't have a base in it, So I figured out over the years that if anything, I'm agnostic. Whereas Mike, I'll let him explain his side.
Right. Well, yeah, I'm an atheist. And it scared the hell out of me because I'd been around the rooms before and I knew that I needed to find that power greater than myself. And thankfully, again, open and honest and asking for help. And I shared that fear with other grown men, which is one of the toughest things you can do.
Hands
And
down, yeah.
and an old timer looked at me early on when I was being open and saying, I don't know what the hell I'm going to do about this part of the program. And he looked at me and he said, kid, it doesn't matter what your higher power is. You just need to know it's not you anymore. And it was a place for me to start. I mean, Alcoholics Anonymous is a power greater than me. Being a part of several communities it's something that's more powerful than me by myself. And that works for me.
Exactly. No, I understand that completely. And see, before I was able to really open up to people, I had
Mm-hmm.
rescued this dog that I named Karma, and that's where my life with Karma comes into play.
Ah,
Um,
Oh, nice.
and basically, so this poor animal was at a drug house, tied to a tree, probably being used as a bait dog, just
right.
in horrible, horrible shape. And I went out there one day and decided I was going to bring her home. So I cut her free from the tree with a bolt cutter, took her home, and she became my ride or die. So before I was comfortable really talking to people, I told on
Mm-hmm.
myself to her. Like, we used to cover so much pavement on these long walks. And I just remember opening up and just being like, talking to her just like I would any other person and saying, look,
Mm-hmm.
this is what I'm struggling with, or this is where I need help. And it really
Mm-hmm.
trained me to be open and to really
Mm-hmm.
be able to talk to people, because for so long I just couldn't do that. Or I
Right.
wouldn't allow myself to do that.
Right.
Yeah, and I mean, Mike talks about that too. He again, being an atheist, he prays in the morning and prays at night. And he's said it on here before plenty of times. He does not think that anyone's listening, right, Mike? I mean, but you're talking.
Right. Yeah. Doesn't matter. Right. I'm taking the action. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. Doesn't matter if anything's listening to me. I'm doing it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And that's so powerful because
Yeah.
honestly, just you're doing, like you said, you're doing it. Like you're
Right.
literally making yourself do something that at times I'm sure probably felt really fucking uncomfortable.
Oh yeah,
And
absolutely. Right. And doesn't make sense and all that stuff. Yeah, but it doesn't matter. I mean, the big book says this is a simple program of action. And if you take the actions, you get the results.
Yeah.
So far, man, almost 12 and a half years. Yeah, I've found that to be absolutely true.
And we joke about it all the time that and it is it's a simple program for complicated people. We were told that right away. We were told, and
Hmm.
same thing that Mike just said because I didn't know what to believe in, and that they somebody told Mike that, then they said it in group. Just realize that it's not you, and I'm like, oh, okay, I can do that. But on top of that too is just continuously, again, doing the action, doing this thing over and over and over again. All this stuff becomes just habit. It's like breathing. I don't have to think about breathing. I just happens. And that's what this whole recovery thing has been. But the biggest thing is that yeah, taking that action, and that was one of the things that was drilled into us. I mean, from the start, don't tell me what you did, do it. Don't say you're sorry, show the person. This whole thing with making amends to people. Some people you can't just say you're sorry to. And I tried not to. I tried to show people, and I still do every single day. So
Hmm.
it's a constant process. But man, it's better than been doing what we did before, though, right?
Oh yeah, and I mean, think the way I look at it, if I put as much effort into my sobriety as I did to finding drugs, to hiding it, to
Hmm.
lying, to stealing, I mean, I'm gonna reap the rewards as long as I put the effort in and
Yep.
keep showing up. And
Yep.
the thing that I see too, and that I've in these last 9 years really come to admire is the lifestyles and the changes of people that have extended time. When you
Hmm.
can look and say, man, that person, they at least on the outside look like they have their shit together and they're living a good life. Well, I
Right.
mean, that's something to be desired.
Right.
And that
Yeah.
that goes a long way, at least with me, because I'm like, okay, if they can achieve it, this isn't some magical formula. It's literally they're doing step after step, then I
Hmm.
can do the same thing. Like there's no
Right.
reason I can't do that as long as I put the effort in.
Exactly. Exactly. Right. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sitting in my big old house right now. 15, 16, 17 years ago, I was sitting on a piece of cardboard in San Francisco shooting heroin. I don't have to
Yeah.
live that way today.
Exactly. That's exactly it.
And there's a lot of times too, and we watched and have continued to watch, but watched a lot of people with a lot of time and a lot of people with medium amounts of time and things like that when we first got sober, and sometimes you look at it and it's a quality of how that person carries themselves, And the thing that was difficult for me sometimes, and I still hear this, I listen to a lot of other podcasts also, and a lot of times people are talking about the things that they have. These are all the things I was able to buy, or I have this job or that job. But it's like, okay, cool. So you were able to obtain this, but what's going on inside of you, Because a lot of us had things like that while we were, drinking and drugging. Maybe we had more money, maybe we had bigger jobs and all that stuff. But
Hmm.
I wasn't happy. There was times in my life that I made more money than I'm making now. I had more things. I owned a home, all those sort of things. But man, I was fucking miserable. So much of what at least I feel, and again, Mike and I are pretty much on the same page with these things, I think. I
Hmm.
know we are, but it's not we have some stuff and we like our stuff and we like some
Yes,
nice
I do.
things. But man, take all that stuff away first. Don't take away all this stuff that's inside of me. That I don't want to lose. I can get stuff back. It's not easy, but I can get stuff back. Man, but to try to rebuild what he and I have done in, like you said, almost 12 and a half years, I don't want to do that again.
Right.
Oh
What is
no,
Yeah.
what do you
definitely
always say,
not.
Mike? Burn way too many calories to this point.
Yeah, I've burnt. Yeah, exactly. I've burned way too many calories for this thing to get that peace and that serenity that they promised me I would get if I did the work. And that's what Bill's talking about. Yeah, I got stuff. Yes, I like my stuff. It's great stuff. If I lost it again, I've literally had the clothes on my back and absolutely no money in my pocket. Um, but I have stuff, but I'm comfortable with myself today, which you can't put a price on. I lay my head down at night, and like our sponsor used to say, I don't have those cowboys and Indians going nuts in my head anymore. They're gone.
Yeah, and what a beautiful thing, honestly, man.
Absolutely.
So I'm dual diagnosed. So I'm also
Mm-hmm.
I struggle with bipolar, and one
Mm-hmm.
of the greatest gifts was once I got the drugs and the alcohol out of the way, I was
Mm-hmm.
actually able to address the mental health side of things, and it was
Right.
like, holy shit! Talk about opening your eyes and being like, wow, well now all of this makes so much more sense to me. Why I was
Mm-hmm.
doing some of the things I was doing, taking some of those risk-taking behaviors, doing some
Mm-hmm.
of the crazy shit. And I just looked at it when I was in it like, oh, this is just me. This is who I am. And now I
Right.
look at it like, damn, man, this is part of a disease. This is
Mm-hmm.
something that I also have to be aware of. And it's just, but now I'm able to actually counteract it, and I'm able to do the things that I want to do and not let the bipolar win. And
Mm-hmm.
it's such a beautiful thing. And you can just build on
Mm-hmm.
those small victories.
Right.
Well, and I think
Yeah. Go ahead, Bill.
no, I was just going to say, I think that I don't want to say common, but I've heard of, and I can't, honestly, Mike and I, in our circle, I can't think of anyone in our circle, but I'm sure there has been people that we want to run across that found out they were bipolar. But there's, again, listening to all these podcasts and reading things, that seems to be, again, if nothing, common's probably the wrong word. It's something that happens on a semi-regular basis where people, clear out all the clutter and all of a sudden they figure out there is an underlying thing. They're like
Mm-hmm.
bipolar seems to be one of the things that pops up with a lot of people. And like you said, it causes some crazy behavior in people. There was a buddy of mine, and this is while I was, my son's mom and I were still together. And I didn't know he was bipolar, had no idea. But he would always take his meds, and he and I used to go out every once in a while. And we went up to this bar, and he was drinking. I mean, nothing real out of the ordinary. But then he started drinking Jack and Coke, I think, or something like that, which is again not out of the ordinary. But I like turn around, he's talking to somebody, and the dude's fucking loaded, and then he's going off on somebody, he's wanting to fight people. So I'm like, dude, we gotta go, man. So, because he's about to get kicked out. So he's in my car, we're driving home, and he tells me, he's like, oh yeah, I didn't take my meds today. What are you talking about, man? He's like, yeah, he goes, I'm bipolar. I'm like, bing.
Yeah,
I'm like,
exactly.
now that makes sense. And then he's like, I'm gonna be sick. And I had like a brand new car at the time. I pulled over, opened the door, throws up out the car. But again, the difference in his behavior, he and I had spent a lot of time in probably a 1 or 2 year period. But one day, it was like one day off his meds, man, and it did. He was at alcohol and he went nuts, man.
Oh
Right. And
yeah.
I mean, a lot of us have the mental health problems, and we're self-medicating with stuff that we shouldn't be self-medicating with, and then we get addicted to that stuff, and it just compounds the problem. Right. I mean, you've got this mental problem, and so you're medicating yourself with drugs that aren't meant to do that, but it sort of solves the problem. It kind of it does what it's supposed to do. It makes you feel better. Whether it's vodka or pills or whatever, it makes you feel better. But then you get the problem with the substance. And if you're dual diagnosed and you have this alcoholism that we have, that we react differently to the substances and we can't stop on our own, then it just compounds. So yeah, so then you take away the booze and the drugs, and you're still fucked up.
Oh yeah,
but at
exactly.
least, but at least you're clear-headed enough at that point to address the problem the way it's supposed to be addressed, not try to do it on your own.
Yeah,
Again,
that's
that problem.
exactly, and that's so true. And I think with that clear-headedness too comes you pick up these tools along the way that you learn from other people or you learn from a
Hmm.
counselor. And when you're clear-headed, you can utilize them. And
Right.
it's like, wow, this is a difference. I can actually do things aside from just self-medicating that help my mental health. And
Hmm.
for me, that was like this aha moment that I never had before because what I would do is when I felt uncomfortable, it's like I would
Hmm.
drink
Right.
or
Right.
I would use. But
Hmm.
now that those aren't an option, it's like, okay, I actually have to feel my feelings and
Hmm.
get get used to that. And
Right.
it's different, but it's also a beautiful thing.
Right.
Right. And we also find out that being uncomfortable isn't the worst thing in the world. We get through it.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
so
Right.
true.
Yeah, I mean, because that's, the fear and the ego. And, we don't want to be uncomfortable. Guess what, man? Be a little uncomfortable for a minute. It's okay. First of all, it's going to pass. It doesn't last forever. And and second of all, being a little uncomfortable is kind of okay.
Oh, for sure. And like
Right.
you guys asked before, like what I do to maintain my sobriety.
Yeah.
Another thing I do is I speak.
Right.
And I go to events, and not only do I talk about my book, but I talk about recovery. And I'll be honest, it's uncomfortable a lot of the time because
Sure.
I have social anxiety. I don't necessarily do well. Like, that's why I wrote a book, because it's easier for me to write than it is to talk in front of people. But
Right.
what I'm finding is being uncomfortable is actually, it's helping other people because they see
Right.
it and they realize, okay, if this guy can do it, then I can tell my story. Or if this guy can do it, then I can be a little uncomfortable and maybe disclose something that usually I don't. And
Right.
and that's what's kind of given me permission to be like, okay, well, fuck my feelings. I'm going to
Thank
do
you.
this thing and honestly do it to the best of my ability. And hopefully if I help one person along the way, it's worth it.
Right.
Right, exactly. That again, smashing our ego. We are not the most important thing. Maybe we should be a little uncomfortable to help somebody else. That's the beautiful. And if we do that, for some strange reason, our lives get better. Go figure.
And that the funny part too is that I can't tell you how many times that feeling uncomfortable has actually helped me, because if I'm in a situation and I start to feel uncomfortable, that's also a red flag in my head. There's the uncomfortableness of being in, like you said, a social anxiety or whatever that deal is, and I get all that. But there's another thing where you're sitting someplace and you're like, I feel off. I feel uncomfortable. I need to go, or you're at a wedding, you're at a social event, whatever the deal is. That uncomfortableness, I think, is a beautiful thing. So I love being uncomfortable because it means that I'm growing. Because if I'm uncomfortable, it means I'm into something I'm not used to, and it's not like a mainstream thing for me. So it means I'm growing, or it's an alarm in my head that says something's wrong. I gotta go, or I gotta figure out why do I feel this way. I gotta go, So I think uncomfortableness is it's a necessity. It really is. For us people, right?
Oh yeah.
Right.
Probably
Exactly.
for everybody. So let's I want you to. We both obviously like you to talk about the book. I mean, in the promos this week, I mentioned it, and I'll do the same thing on the episode. I know your Amazon link is on your Instagram page, but talk about the book. Anything you want. We want to be able to get information out to as many people as possible about the book. How you started it, where they can find it. Anything you want to talk about. Let's do that.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Like with the book, I mean, basically it took me 2 years to write. I decided that I'd read so much literature when it came to recovery, and what I wanted to introduce was a raw, gritty story that was like just straight up transparent, that said, this is the shit I went through. And I wanted to put that out there for people. And on top of it too, being former law enforcement, I wanted to do it to crush some of that stigma, because so many people look at law enforcement and they make a differentiation, and they don't necessarily see a person. They see a cop. And at the end of the day, yeah, exactly. And it's like at the end of the day, they're still people, and they still suffer the same shit that everyone else does. And that was a point I really wanted to drive home in my book, because so often you don't see that side of law enforcement.
Well, I think it's interesting too, that, okay, you're a cop, but you're also a human, and this disease does not spare anyone because of what they do for a living.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, that's 100% true. So really, like when I was writing, I was thinking of all these different things, and I'm just like, man, I just need to get this out into the world and see how they respond to it. And fortunately, people, it's helped people, and they've said, look, reading your book really opened my eyes to things that I never thought about in addiction before, or opened my eyes to the way I view someone who could have a substance abuse problem. Because
Right.
I even had fellow officers tell me, look, man, like this was something I needed to read because I've become numb to it. And
Right.
it's just like, man, I'm so glad you took the time to read it. And let's talk about that. And that's the other thing. Like the book has raised so many discussions and so many points of topics that, I mean, I could talk to you guys for a couple hours. It's just, it's crazy, but it's great because talking about recovery also helps keep us sober.
Right.
Right.
And the biggest thing that I've seen is with the book, it's allowed people to come out of their shells and say, hey, well, I was experiencing this, or I've had problems with, and it doesn't even have to necessarily be substance use. It can also be mental health, because I address
Right.
that as well. So it's really become just a tool for a lot of people to recover. And it's very cool. It's just, I'm fortunate. And I thank God that I was able to put it out into the world.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, it's one of the beautiful things, man. When we realize that, again, we're not alone. We're not unique. Like you said, you know, there are others that are like us, and we can help each other. And that's the bottom line. We don't have to go through this alone anymore.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and you had asked, the book's available on Amazon. It's also available through barnesandnoble.com. Otherwise, there's a site called Kobo too. Some people use that, but basically Amazon and Barnes and Noble are your best bet.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah, and I'm familiar with the other one. I forget one of my recovery books because it's KOBU, right? Or KOBO?
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the two.
Yeah, one of the two.
Yeah, and it was well, it was one of my recovery books. I couldn't find it anywhere else at one point years ago when I first started putting stuff on my phone. I ended up going through there, but so the main one's Amazon, obviously, and that link is in your bio on your Instagram page, and we're going to put that not only that'll be in the description for obviously the episode. So any place the episode goes, Apple, Spotify, all the other players, it'll be in the description. So your Instagram page will be on there, but then also when we do the promo, same deal. We'll have your Instagram, page on there too, and then if anyone wants to find you outside of that, anywhere outside of Instagram, or you on Facebook, any other place or is Instagram the best place for people to find you?
I would say actually Facebook, for sure. Like I will respond. I interact with my readers all the time on Facebook. It's been a pretty good platform for me. I'm also active on TikTok as well. So
okay.
I mess around with that, make fun videos. I'm into collecting sports cards, so I do some sports card stuff on there. Just try to keep it light and fun.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, do me a favor. When after all said and done, if you want to just email me the links for your obviously for Facebook and for TikTok, I'll put all three of those in not only in the episode description, but when we're promoting the episode this week, because obviously we want to have an opportunity for people to find you. And the book itself, you said, has been out for how long?
A little over a year. So it published in August of 2021.
Okay, cool.
Nice.
Yeah, it sounds like if you said the words bestseller, so I'm guessing it somebody's responding to it, which is awesome.
Yeah. Like I said, really cool. I woke up Easter Sunday morning and it just had a plethora of sales, man, and it was so cool because it just took off that day for whatever reason. I mean, once again, you just look at higher power and shit you can't explain, but it did it, and I'm grateful because that led to more reviews, which led to more readers, and it just kept the ball rolling. So very cool. I do have a question though,
sure.
And this one goes to Mike. Mike, what did you get for your tattoo today?
Oh yeah, I meant to bring that up
before. I got a purple tarantula up on my shoulder.
Really, man? Oh, dude.
Yes, I did.
Okay, so
That's cool.
yeah, take a picture of that. We'll throw it up on Instagram. You know, it's funny. I was actually gonna thank you, Travis, to begin with, because for everyone out there, you're never gonna know the difference, but we ended up starting like a half hour late because Mike had an appointment to get his tattoo
I
done
was under
today.
the gun.
Yeah, Mike was under the gun getting another tattoo, more ink on him. But Travis was cool enough to obviously give us that leeway. So yeah, we started a recording about a half hour late. But yeah, Mike, take a picture of it. We'll throw it up on Instagram.
Yeah, we'll get there. Well, it's got the derm stuff on it now, so I'll get one up in a couple of days when it comes off.
A real man would just take that off and take a picture, but that's okay.
Yeah, I'd like it to heal properly.
Yeah, whatever, man. That's okay.
Yeah, I know. See, I don't have to live that way with the hair dryer motor and the guitar string. And no jailhouse tattoos for me anymore.
And you can't, and you don't react to my at least my attempt at peer pressure. So that's awesome.
Nope, not at all.
No, I know that's the best part. I can give you a little bit of shit, and you're just like, yeah, fuck off, man. I'm doing this.
Yep.
So, what else, Travis? Anything else that you want to get out there to people? Anything else you want to talk about in the next, 5 minutes? What do you got?
Yeah, man. I would say, so one of the biggest takeaways from my book is that no one recovers alone. And I truly believe that. Like, I believe that in order to achieve recovery and really kind of, live the life that we want or honestly, man, deserve, we've got to connect. And it's just a matter of being willing to be transparent, be honest, and connect with people that are wiser and more mature than yourself. For me, it was that simple. It was getting out of my own way and being like, okay, let me turn this thing over and let me do some handoffs and talk to people that have some time. And that's really what got the ball rolling for me. And that's what I want to see for other people is that connection. Don't be afraid of the people in recovery. I mean, some of us seem a little fucking weird, and we probably are. But,
take a look at Mike. Yeah, take a look at Mike.
Right.
But no, you're 100% correct on that because that's and I've talked about it endlessly. But basically, it's the opposites that we've been involved in, and not just Mike and I, but older people, younger people, people from all different backgrounds. And you know what? It's funny because my family, when I first went into the Keating Center where we got sober, I was over at my aunt and uncle's house, and my uncle is the one that asked me. He said, hey, he goes, I hope you don't mind me asking, but he said, isn't it uncomfortable talking to all these strangers about what you're going through? I'm like, honestly, I'm more uncomfortable talking to you than I am them. And I no offense to it because I loved him to death. He was awesome. He was easy to talk to. But if I'm going to talk about this stuff, I want to talk to people who, and I didn't know that then, but people who understand it. You said it before, Travis, people who have been there and all that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
You just don't realize how, how liberating, how freeing that is to have somebody that just, shakes their head and you're like, I get it.
Right. Yeah. I've been there, done that. Yeah. Right. And I have the solution too.
Exactly. And it gets you, like I said, it gets you out of your head and it stops you from thinking that you're terminally unique. That you're like this one special person that, okay, this has happened to. It's like, no, hell no. Like you could go, I mean, I guarantee, man, I could walk through my neighborhood right now and find someone that's struggling.
Sure.
Right.
Yep.
And it's just like, we've got to join together to try to help people and give the gifts that we receive, give them back. And that's what I try to do every day.
Give it away to keep it.
Yep.
Exactly, man.
Awesome. Well, all right. I mean, Travis, thank you. Thank you very, very much for, again, being patient. It was a great conversation. Thank you for sharing all that. We'll get all the information up on our, obviously in the description. Oh, last thing, take a look at our website. It's your choice. We've offered this to a few other people. If you want us to put your profile your book on our website, we have a sponsor page. I'll let you take a look at that and see how it's set up. Just go to SoberNotMature.com, hit the sponsor page. If you want us to add you to that, We don't charge anyone for doing it, but it gives another opportunity and a space, for people to find your book. But we'll get everything put in the description and the promotions and, hopefully help you out with that book. But thank you again. We really appreciate it.
That's awesome. Thank you, guys. Mike, I hope your tattoo heals well, man.
It will. I went to a professional shop again. I don't need to live that way anymore.
And if Travis,
awesome.
have you heard how we wrap up the episodes or no?
Yeah, I have.
Oh, okay, cool. So you won't be surprised by Mike. Do you have the new ending?
I do.
Okay, cool. First of all, I always ask this question. Mike, anything else on your mind?
Not a goddamn thing.
All right, then Travis and I will be quiet. We'll let you close out.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for listening to another episode of Sober Not Mature. We want to thank Travis for coming and hanging out with us tonight. We really appreciate it. Go find his book, man. As always, be kind, be good to each other, do something nice for somebody else this week. And as always, please, fuck off. Then keep fucking off. Keep fucking off until you get to a gate with a sign saying, you can't fuck off past here. Climb over the gate, dream the impossible dream, and keep fucking off forever.
I love that so much. And if you didn't hear that part, Travis, our sister gave us that. So
yes, she did.
We told Tip last weekend, she's sick and twisted too. So yeah, we love her to death. But all right, Travis, thanks again. Mike, I love you, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
Love you too.
All right, guys. Have
Excellent.
a good one.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks. Bye.
As always, thank you for listening to another episode of Sober, Not Mature. To access all of our content and interact with us, please visit our website, SoberNotMature.com. Thank you again for listening, and we will talk to you soon.